Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today we're taking a look at the penultimate book in the third series, the 19th book overall in the Lone Wolf series that we've been taking a look at, called Wolf's Bane, written by Joe Dever. This series started getting published in the mid-80s, and then it got published pretty quickly until the late 90s when the gamebook craze died down. This is the gamebook series that we've been doing a deeper dive into for you folks, and I definitely enjoyed it. This gamebook series was a lot different. It was the first gamebook series that basically was telling one chapter in each thing with the same character, the same items, the same skills that you chose, but you get to another skill in between sessions. So you come back to the next book stronger than ever. You keep your stats, your combat skill, your endurance, those sorts of things, the gold that you found that you didn't spend in various places. You'll keep that for the next thing. So your character builds up over time, and it's telling just one coherent piece. For example, in the first book, in this fantasy world, your fellow psychic rangers are ambushed and attacked in the first part of the first book, Flight from the Dark. And so this book basically is telling the story of you fleeing to the capital city in the midst of all these attacks that are going on. And then it's being besieged, so you have to find a way to get into this capital city. Then once you do, you tell the king what's happening, let him know. That's the end of the first book, right? Then the second book, the king now knows, and all the other Kai are dead, which would normally be his generals and can attack the bad guys and so forth, right? So knowing that he won't be able to deal with this ambush, instead he sends you as a sort of a diplomat to a nearby nation to pick up a Deus Ex Machina nasty artifact sword to bring back and release the siege that's happening on the capital, right? So clearly the second chapter flows directly from the first, right? They all tell one chapter of an overall completed story. Well, the first chapter tells you as a Kai, ends on book 5, with you finding the book of the Magna Kai and thus being able to take to the next level. The next book series begins at book 6 and ends at book 12, with you questing for Doomstones. And then once you've got all the Lore Stones, rather, the good stuff. And then once you do, in the final penultimate adventure, book 11, then you move to book 12, and now you're powerful. Right, and so now you're going to try to assassinate the Dark Lords. Well, now you've assassinated the Dark Lords in the 12th book, and now you're moving into the next series, the third series, which was actually a little bit of a surprise. I remember, seeing the first book, Plague Lords of Ruel, in the Walden Books in southern West Virginia, and I was like, whoa. I was not expecting a 13th book in the series, right? The 12th book definitely ends it. In between, you've basically discovered that there's another level of study beyond Kai Grandmaster. So now you're following along, and you have 12 skills that you can start with. You start with 4, and then at the end of each one you add more. So now these have a much more powerful combats. They're much harder. You're not running around with the Deus Ex Machina, the Summer Sword, and blowing through combat, and then having the occasional combat that's being amped up because you have the Summer Sword, right, and make it more powerful to punish you. But that in order to make sure that everybody's playing on the same playing field. This one's much more powerful, right? And so the combat in here is pretty strong, and you can die from combat here much faster than you could after you get the Summer Sword. Although before you get the Summer Sword, combat's still pretty hard in the first book, in the first half of the second book. But anyway, be that as it may, you now have 12 skills instead of 10. Normally you would have 10 skills, and again, you're Psychic Ranger, so you have some psychic skills like the ability to attack people mentally with Mind Blast, the ability to protect yourself, Mind Shield for mental attacks, the ability to move things, mind over matter, with your mind, then the ability to detect things with your mind, called Sixth Sense, and then you have warrior and ranger abilities like weapon skill to fight with weapons better than others, tracking, hunting to get food, camouflage to keep yourself protected, right, animal kinship to bond with with animals and to get yourself out of combat with animals and those sorts of things. And each level of the series is now in the third series. There are upgraded levels of those too. For example, in this one, the upgraded version of Path was Pathmanship in the next series, and now it's Grand Pathmanship in the Grandmaster series. And there are 2 additional skills that you have in this one that are different and are brand new. One is called Kai Alchemy, which lets you cast some spells from the Brotherhood, and the other is called Magi Magical, which allows you to cast things from the Magi thing. So you both have the ability now to add spells to your list. Anyway, one of the main issues that I have with this book, and I'm only giving this a 6 out of 10, because it's my least favorite book in this third series, and one of my least favorite books overall. And there are a couple of reasons. I keep my spoilers reviewed, so I'm not going to tell you what this is. But for the last 4 books now, something happens that I don't like. It was fine the first book in the Legacy of Vashna, but by the time I get to my 19th book of Pulse Bane, and this one's like a majority of the book, right? It's like probably like 80% of this book. It has something that happens, and it was okay in Legacy of Vashna because it was a surprise, whoa. And then it was a surprise in the next 2 books, not really, because it already happened in Legacy of Vashna, right? And now it's happening early in this book, but again, it feels very similar to Book 11, which felt very unique, but now it's not, because you're doing this stuff a lot, and it just doesn't feel that resonant to me. That's one of the reasons why I'm dropping it down. The second reason why I'm dropping it down is because it's just a chase and doesn't have the epic feel of the previous novels in this series. For example, you're just one person named Wolfsbane, the character and name of this novel is basically a version of you, the lone wolf character, that's evil and has been doing evil things in your name. So now you're chasing him down. And that's it, you're just chasing down an evil guy. Well, it doesn't have the same level of, I get that it's interesting and different, right? It's not you fighting in a major battle or saving your fellow, like the previous novel where you're being attacked. Homeland's being attacked by dragons, so you've got to go and save them, right? Or the Dark Crusade, where you're fighting alongside good guys in an army in a war. Or, you taking out the Death Lord of Ixia in a couple of books ago, who's a big bad in an area who creates a lot of undead and has undead ships at his command and is ready to launch an attack, right? These sorts of things feel nice and epic and so forth, right? And this is just chasing down a bad guy for an entire book. Yeah, the penultimate book in your series. I mean, again, it's different than the other things, so I get that he was trying. So I want to give him some acknowledgement for Joe Dover. He was trying to do something different, but it doesn't have the same resonance as the previous books, right? Right, for the second to last book in the third series, and the last one with Lone Wolf, before you hand on over into the next series, into one of the new order that he founded in between series 2 and series 3, it just doesn't have the same feel, right? And so forth, of you just chasing a big bad for like an entire novel, right? It feels a little encumbersome. So there you go. That's the central concept of Wolfsbane for you. Again, I try to keep these reviews spoiler free, so I'm not telling you what's happening or why I dislike something that's happening again in this novel, like 80 to 20% of the way through the novel. But there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read Wolfsbane? What did you think about it? Would you like to talk about it in the spoilers review? I'm sorry, in the comments below. If so, I'd be more than happy to engage you with it further. If you enjoyed this, hey, why not hit that subscribe button? There's a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? Are pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.